All right, it's time for Lions Gray Mane's Hall of the Underrated. And this is one of my absolute favorite Lions. Growing up in Romeo, Michigan, 32 Mile and Van Dyke. Loved watching this guy as a part of the Silver Rush. And that is the one and the only Doug English. Doug English played defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions from 1975 to 1985 with a one-year hiatus in 1980 that we will discuss. Four-time Pro Bowler, three-time All-Pro, and a cornerstone, as I mentioned, of the Silver Rush defensive line. Recorded 59 career sacks, and by the way, when they started recording sacks, that's his career total because they started recording sacks at a particular time. He's sixth all-time in Lions history, holds the NFL record with 4 career safeties, including 2 in the 1983 season alone, which is also an NFL record. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2011 when he played for the Longhorns at the University of Texas. He's also a member of the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame, inducted in 2015, yet somehow, gentlemen, his name doesn't come up in the same breath as other Lions defensive legends. Brent, give us the Doug English scouting report. What kind of player was he, and what made him special?
You know, that Silver Rush, I distinctly remember Alabama Baker getting all the accolades, but that unit was what they were because I believe Doug English, how tough he was. The guy was just physically a menace. Younger Detroit Lions fans, he's a guy I would Google and watch his highlights. There were highlights of him tackling Famer after Hall of Famer when you call up his YouTube highlight. Tony Dorsett, 8-yard loss on a run. What was his name? Roger Staubach getting sacked. Terry Bradshaw getting sacked. Him just absolutely demolishing people. And so he's one of those special players to me. He was one of 4 players that we all anonymously put in, and we all selected him as a nominee for this illustrious honor to be selected, right? And so when you go through the Lions history and you look at Luther Ellis, you look at Robert Porcher, you look at
Wheelchair.
Al Bubba Baker, Sean Rogers, Mike Sawson, shout out to you, my friend. Sean Rogers was famous for being rolled in on a wheelchair. But Doug English does not get named on most of those lists, Chris.
Crazy.
It's crazy because the guy, 10 seasons, he ended up with 55 and a half sacks. And as you pointed out, they didn't keep it as a statistic his first 4 years.
Yeah.
And he was just a game wrecker. We talked about Corey Schlesinger last week and what he did leading and breaking face masks. Doug English is a guy that was just a tower of a man, 6'5". He was always in the backfield. He's coming off the edge. And there's a lot of players like him that have played on other teams that I'd like to point out. Remember the Manster, Randy White?
Oh, yeah.
Harvey Martin? I wouldn't have picked those guys over Doug English. I kid you not.
Yeah.
And Doug English, it's an absolute shame that he does not get the recognition for the type of player he was.
Dan, Brent mentioned this a little bit. Doug English was a game wrecker for 4 years, but then he took a hiatus in 1980. Yep. He was disheartened. They went 2-14 in the 79 season. His body was broken, and then he sat out the entire 1980 campaign. Talk about that and who the player was before and after.
Yeah, it's interesting because he was actually playing. You go back and you look, he had as a rookie, he didn't start any games, but he played decent. His second year, he had some injury issues, only got in 7 games and started 5. And I think he then missed some games, but then the next few years, he played really well. He's very consistent. They would say he recorded 8, 7, and 6.5 sacks those years. And again, this is a defensive tackle. This isn't an edge or a linebacker like we're all used to now. It wasn't LT coming off the edge. It wasn't Randy White coming off the edge. Reggie White, whoever. This was an interior defensive tackle who was 6'5", 265, 260, whatever. By today's standards, he's small. There's an article written by Mike O'Hara where he talked to Doug and talked to him about this. And Doug's, when I started and was 75, I was a giant, 6'5", whatever. When I ended in 85, I was small.
It's crazy.
The game grew passed him while he was there, and yet he was still a record. He missed that year, and O'Hara touched on this in his article. If you don't have it, it's on the Lions website. If you've never read it, I would strongly recommend reading it. It talks about how he sat out, as Brett pointed out, the team was just awful. They were 2-14. He was beat up. His neck was screwed up, so he sat the whole year out. He refound himself and took the pressure off. He focused on his businesses that year he was out of the game. He thought he was done, honestly. And he focused on himself, focused on his businesses. And then he had an incident where a young fan came up to him in the first year he was back, and he gave him some advice. And then he was shocked because I guess his kid's mother called him or sent him a note, I believe, sent him a letter telling him that after he took the advice that was given to him by Doug, straightened his life out, and just changed this kid's life. And all of this was huge for Doug to go in and just play. And Brent, you nailed it earlier. Play just like free, right? He just played the game and had fun. He didn't worry about anything. He had 1 year where he earned some honors. I think he was a Pro Bowler in 78 or something like that, 2 years before his injury. But when he came back, he just Pro Bowl, AP, All-Pro. He even received Defensive Player of the Year vote in 1983 when he had 13 sacks from an interior position. Come on.
That is insane.
Defensive tackle, tall, skinny guy, playing D-tackle, getting 13 sacks.
250.
250. Yeah.
That's amazing. He persevered through injury, persevered through immense pressure he was putting on himself to perform. He was a giant until he wasn't. The game grew past him physically with the interior. These guys, the linemen got bigger around him. The linemen got bigger in front of him. And yet he was the key cog of that Silver Rush. Brent nailed it. Baker and all those guys, they keyed off of Doug English because English freed them up. If we had McNeil playing before pre-injury McNeil this year, like we saw last year, he was unblockable.
Yeah.
He freed up Hutch. When you have to dedicate interior guys to a guy inside that can do everything, that's what Doug did a long time ago, and we're all better for it to have watched him. It gives you better appreciation for the game of somebody that, like, look at that, he's got those freaking hand pads on, the old school ones.
I saw this story where it was his head coach when he was at Texas, and he said that Doug English is all elbows and shoulders.
Yes.
Dan, that was what resonated with me, and I think I first read it in the O'Hara article as well, that once he figured, hey, listen, there's more than just this. I'm only going to play this game for 8 or 10 years at most. So why don't I really focus on what I'm going to do after this? And the fact of the matter is, Brent, English owns the NFL record with 4 career safeties. This is tied with Ted Hendricks, Jared Allen, and Justin Houston, and he's the only NFL player to record 2 in a single season twice, which is absurd. So that just tells you, like, the skill set, the guy that was an absolute game record. Brent, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? The NFL Hall of Fame. Why is Doug English maybe never going to get considered for the NFL Hall of Fame?
Why is he not in the Ring of Honor? Why is he not in the Hall of Fame? These questions are questions that I think Lions fans like us have asked for years. The guy, Dan, I know that I hadn't posted the list of all the players that played with him earlier. You guys may remember this. Bill Gay, Dave Purifoy.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Kofer.
Yep.
Mike Fanning. Steve Pruness, Curly Culp. The names that he played with, I really believe he was the best of all of them. And Bubba Baker had a lot of sacks, but you would have a hard time finding a lot of guys. It's like Lou Whitaker. You put Lou Whitaker's stats against the second baseman that are in the Hall of Fame, and incredibly comparable. I would bet you that if you looked at the full list of all the defensive tackles in the Hall of Fame, Doug English would be right there with you. It's a good question, Chris. I can't answer other than to say that sometimes
the Detroit Lions.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Not winning is a big part of that. Great players.
Yeah.
Like Schlesinger, and we can go down the list of guys that we were just talking about tonight. These guys, if they had been on the Steelers or the Cowboys, would be in the NFL Hall of Fame. 49ers. The team that won a lot, they have a disproportionate number of players in the Hall of Fame. Not disproportionate in a bad way. rightful, probably. They distinguished themselves by winning the ultimate games. It was great to see that we all picked him to be on the list.
The unanimous Greymanes inductee into the Greymanes Hall of the Underrated, the one and the only Doug English. Gentlemen, this has again been an amazing show. Folks, go collect all the Doug English football cards that you possibly can. I'm sure you can probably get them for a couple of bucks. And watch some of those highlights of Doug English. You'll be happy that you did. And I know there's a lot of fans of the University of Texas Hook'em Horns that know this man is an absolute legend in college as well, in the College Football Hall of Fame. I love this segment. I love the passion that I get to have about this whole thing, but watching you guys and you guys talking about watching these players, it's a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us on Lions Greymanes. We'll be back again next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Set your clocks, set your timers, and if you don't make it, we're still going to be up there on replay. But it's a lot more fun when you can join us, like Chase, like Wanda, like the Detroit fan, all the folks that have joined us here in the chat. And as always, we end and tell everyone to go Lions.